So the first thing was that I looked through all the questions that Carolyn asked you guys for, and Carolyn, who types like the wind, she typed them all out. So I looked at all of them, and I know Trish took some and Carolyn took some. So the thing is that when I looked at a lot of them, I thought, gosh, a lot of these questions can be answered if we really looked at the principles, the guidelines, and some of the core concepts. So I thought that instead of just answering the questions, blah, 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 that I'd create a little presentation to answer some of those questions. So the thing that I want to say about the principles and guidelines is that, you know, Jerry didn't sit down at a desk in his office during his lunch hour and whip them up. So even though they seem very short and very simple, they really represent like 40 years of experience and wisdom. And also, like, we actually had a question where someone said, oh, it takes time to read them. Do we really have to read them every time? So I think what happens is that because we read them, every group, the same ones over and over again, we look at them like a shopping list. So instead of the first one, the essence of our being is love, we look at it like pick up the milk at the market. So I think we really have to embrace them and realize how important they are to our groups, because it really is, it creates the foundation and the entire house that we create to have a place of safety and trust in a group. So many times, maybe, you know, instead of reading them all in a row, have everybody pick one, go to the next one. At least, you know, that's different. We've also done things like, what if the essence of our being is love? Like, we're asking a question. I always loved whenever I was facilitating a group and there was a person that had a very thick accent from another country. But when I think about essence, there was a very famous American psychologist named Carl Rogers. He was working in a hospital with people who were really very, very mentally ill. Like, they couldn't talk, they would rock, they were like catatonic, like very, very bad mentally ill. And he went in the root cellar. In other words, the root cellar is a place where you go, where you keep carrots and potatoes and things like that.
东西的地方。
And in order to have some air in there, just a little bit of air, is a teeny tiny window with a little screen on it. And when he went in, he saw that one of the potatoes near that little window, very little light, had sent out a shoot going towards that light. And all of a sudden he realized that every living thing, humans, animals, everything, have that desire, have that innate DNA, that innate force to go to the light. And it's how you can define whether someone is alive or dead. So when I think about when we go into a group, because we're talking about facilitators, like how to be good facilitators, what we really are doing is we are trying to see the light in the person who happens to be sharing. So really, that's the job of the facilitator. And the facilitator also has their own light. And you try to connect your light to their light. But you don't have to, in other words, it's there. You don't have to create it. So in guideline number 8, we say we being present with others, seeing each person as unique and whole and not defined by their appearance, behavior, or their circumstances. So the thing is that what we do is we look at the body, we look at their circumstances, whether they're happy or sad, or their mood, or things like that. So really we want to do is we want to look beyond all of their circumstances, everything. We want to try to see that light in a person. I was facilitating a group for children that had very serious illnesses. And Jerry just popped in. He used to do that from time to time. And of course, we didn't know when it would happen, but it was always like, whoa, Jerry's here. So after he left, after the children left and the group was over, we had the post meeting, and Jerry joined us, the other facilitators, for the post meeting. And one of the young women that we were working with said in the post group, "Oh, I feel so sorry for those young children. They're suffering with, they have chemotherapy and they don't feel good. It's like, I feel so sorry for them." And Jerry got a little angry. He said, as a facilitator, you're looking for those light, and those children, regardless of what's happening to their bodies and what they're feeling, they have such bright lights. And that's how when we're facilitators, we need to look for that light that's underneath, and not be so concerned with all of the stories and all of the other things. Because when we go down to essence, there is no separation. We're all the same. We're all joined. There is no pain. There's no suffering. It's a place of our essence. Some people, I don't know, some spiritual traditions, we call it the soul, whatever it is, and attitudinal healing, we call it essence. And it's very, very important to our work. And also, we all know that we do this work for our own healing. And the more that we trust and we get in touch with our essence and we practice the principles, the more we can see the light in other people, because we can see it in ourselves. So before we had this principle, guideline number 8, which everybody thought, oh, this is much better, this is more formal. The principle number 8 used to be, we try to see the light and not the lampshade. Okay, so this is it. In other words, many times when we see someone, we see their lampshade and we make judgments.
很多时候我们看到一个人，我们看到的都是他外在的灯罩，我们也会据此就做出评判。
But what we're trying to do is look beyond the lampshade and see the essence of the person. So principle guideline number 8 could be, we want to see the light and not the lampshade. So there's also, in the Hindu religion, there's the word namaste, which everybody is using now. And the translation of that is, the light in me bows to the light in you. And we would say, the essence in me bows to the essence in you. Okay, next slide after the lampshade. Okay, next. Okay, all right. So here we've got the guidelines. All right, so in the groups, we recognize that love is listening. We listen with an open heart, give mutual support, practice non-judgmental listening and sharing. So you don't have to say that. They can read it in Chinese, right? Okay, so when we look at the word non-judgmental, what does the word non-judgmental mean? In other words, that comes from our point of view, from our perception of the world. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to see the world from another person's point of view. Okay, so then the next one is that we are here to hear ourselves. We are not here to give advice or to change anyone's beliefs or behavior, being accepted as we are. makes it easier for to accept others. So here we talk about advice. You know, there's so many questions about advice. We're going to talk about advice a little later some more. But the deal is that we are there to heal ourselves. That's the most important thing when you go in there. You're not there to save anybody. You're not there to rescue anybody. They might have beliefs or behaviors that we don't approve of or that we don't agree with. So we need to see a participant through the eyes of, all right, we need to see the participant from their point of view, not our point of view. Okay, the next one, we share from our own experience. By risking and exposing our own emotional state, we find common experience that allows for joining. Again, we're talking about our own experience. Everybody is talking about their own experience. You might think that, oh, I have an experience like that, but that's not true. Everyone has their own experience that comes from their own essence or well-being. So the next one is we respect ourselves and each other as unique. We recognize that each person's process is important, not our judgment of it. So when we say unique, we mean one of a kind. There's no other model like that. And as a facilitator, we need to accept that with other people when we're facilitating groups. Okay, next slide. Okay, choice, big one. We can choose and direct ourselves to be peaceful inside regardless of what's happening outside. Okay, so when we are in a group and we're facilitating a group, we look to choice. In other words, what really happens in a group is someone is willing to change their own point of view for themselves. So once someone is willing to change their point of view, we find that if they share what they're feeling, they can get to that point of view that maybe is not working for them and make a choice to change it. So that's really what we're doing in group, and that's what the principles are about and the guidelines are about, is to offer an alternative view of a situation that is not working for someone for some reason. So when I did the presentation about the neuroscience of attitudinal healing, we talked about some of this stuff about choice and the fact that really we are wired. Just say the first part. Well, yeah, when I gave that presentation on the neuroscience of attitudinal healing, we talked about choice. So the truth is that we have a superhighway that goes to fear and upset, and a dirt road that goes to happiness. So our primitive brain, which is in the back of our head, is always like the fight or flight that we talked about, always ready for a fight or to run away, always fearful. But now we have the frontal lobe, the part of our brain that's up here. And that's the part of our brain that can make us self-reflective, to look at our behavior, to look at what we're doing in our life. So what we're doing in group is we're laying down new tracks in the brain. The fact that when a caveman is out and he sees a lion chasing him and he goes home and he saved himself, that track is very deeply laid in the primitive brain. But when he goes out and has a nice day with his family and the sun and they eat well, it doesn't get laid down in the brain because it's really not about survival. So that's what we're trying to do in group, is we're trying to realize that we have choices on how we think, how we behave. We don't have to do it from a very fearful place. And the thing that I find really exciting about this new research is the fact that it's chemical, it's neurochemical. In other words, these things are not like very lofty spiritual ideas, whatever. It's chemistry, it's physiology. What our goal is when we have groups is we want to pave over that dirt road. We want to make it into a superhighway. So that our fallback is not fear, but love and happiness. And everyone here has had experiences where something outside really upset them, and somehow they changed their point of view and they were okay. What was outside didn't change, but they changed themselves. So this can be very difficult to do by ourselves. That's why we have groups to support each other for this goal. All right. What we need to do is we need to build up our choice muscle. That's what group is about. We're supporting each other to build up our choice muscle, to realize we always have a choice between peace and love or fear. So it's just like going to the gym. If you don't go to the gym, you don't build up a muscle. If you don't...
Go ahead, Joe.
If you don't go to the gym, you don't build up a muscle. If you don't, try to use the principles to choose differently and go to group, you're not building up any muscle. If you don't have any muscle, you'll always go to the super highway to upset and never take the dirt road because it's harder. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so somehow we lost our listening slide. No. Okay, you know what? I have all the listening stuff here. I will do the listening stuff without the slide. So we always do a whole core concept about listening because it's so important. So I think that good facilitation for me, when I look at it, it's 99% listening and 1% using our bag of tricks. So one time I was, let me just talk about that first. So basically, I really think that if someone as a facilitator sat there and really tried to see the light in one of the participants who's sharing, look beyond all of the upset, beyond all of the whatever, and just look for the light and really listen to what they were saying. It's almost like it should not be the word listening. It should be more like being a sacred witness to what they're saying. Mm. So, one of the times that that I was doing another group with Jerry, he came in. It was the group for life-threatened people who were adults, and he came in and again was like, okay, wow, Jerry's here. Like, you always get nervous when the boss comes in. So he sat there for the whole group. He shared a little bit, but not a lot. And then he was there for the post meeting. So he said to me, he said, I can tell that all the participants really love you. So that made me feel good. And then he said, but what you want to do, your intention of what you're doing is you want to wrap them all up in a very beautiful package with a nice bow and send them home happy. And he said, shouldn't have a goal for people. You shouldn't judge where they should end up. You should just do your job as a facilitator. So I really learned something, because in some of the questions, one of the questions was that they wanted the person to get to the pearl. We don't lead a participant anywhere. We follow them wherever they're going. Okay, so the bag of tricks, the 1% bag of tricks. Okay, so what do we have in our bag of tricks? I wish I could hear people. Okay, so basically our bag of tricks includes reflection, facilitative questions, and acknowledgements. Okay, so let me have a little dialogue with myself. So I'm a participant, I come into the group, I start telling a story about leaving my house and what happened in the traffic and whatever. And then I say, okay, well, I got to work, and one of my coworkers told me that one of my other coworkers told my boss something really terrible about me. And I didn't know what to do. So I decided that I was going to go up to the second floor to talk to another friend. Facilitator says, so you had a problem at work? Yes, I had a problem at work. I was so mad when my friend told me about this. Reflection of the facilitator. So you were mad? Yes, I was mad. And then I went up to the second floor. Have you ever felt this way at work before? Yes, this coworker has done this many times before. Okay, all right. So then they continue to go on with the story. So then you ask a facilitative question after the reflection. So a facilitative question could be, have you felt like this before with this coworker at your work? And maybe the participant says, yes, I felt like this many times. And then continues, and then I was going to go upstairs. Then the facilitator could ask, how do you feel about having upsets like this with your coworker? So another facilitative question. Okay, so everybody says, well, I don't want to interrupt. I feel like, how can I interrupt someone when they're talking? But it's very easy. It's like when someone, if someone is just telling a little story and they get to their feelings, we don't need to say anything. So when someone goes on with the story, it's like we look for a feeling word. Like in this story, I felt angry. And then he or she was going to go on with more story, and you said you reflected, so you felt angry. So it's not interrupting. You're just like if you were, with a friend or something. It's not rude. It's just part of being a good facilitator. Okay, so the person comes back the following week and says, okay, do you know what I did? I talked to that coworker who was giving me a problem. And because I know the proper form of good communication, I used the formula. When you said what you said, I felt angry and hurt. And I would really appreciate it if you didn't act like that in the future. Okay, so that's great. So the facilitator can then congratulate them that they came to a decision on their own, and they were able to communicate clearly with their coworker how they felt. So what would be a good acknowledgement? Would a good acknowledgement be, wow, that was great. You finally told her, to mind her own business. that wouldn't be a good acknowledgement, because a facilitator can never make a judgment about whether anything a participant does is good or bad. A good acknowledgement would be, gosh, you've been dealing with this for a long time, and it seems like you've come to a good answer for yourself. In other words, it's a neutral statement. You're not approving or disapproving of whatever they said or did. Because if, let's say you said something like, oh, good for you, that was really a great thing to do, I'm proud of you, and she comes back the following week and she's lost her job, how do you think she'd feel about you thinking that that was such a great idea? So that's why we have to be very, very careful when we give acknowledgments, that we're not making judgments. We're just acknowledging that they're using the principles, that they're using the formula for constructive communication, and that we're not approving or disapproving of anything.
我们对任何事情都不是说在采取认同或者不认同的态度。
Okay, so next slide.
作为带领人，我们是谁哈？如果我们不能给出建议啊，也不能做这个，不能做那个呀，那我们到底是谁？首先，我们不是上师，我们也不是老师。那比如说像现在哈，我们在做这次网络培训，内容是关于带领支持小组的。那我是在带领支持小组这方面有很多的经验，我也培训出了很多出色的带领人哈，有一些带领人做这个带领工作也是做得非常的好，并且我自己去践行去修炼心态疗愈呢，也有超过35年的时间了。但是当我置身于支持小组当中做带领人的时候，所有这一切就都没有关系了，都不重要了。
It's a peer-to-peer support group.
我们
We are equals. I just happen to be wearing the facilitator hat, and you're wearing the participant hat. So that's really, really important, because some of the questions were about, they asked me for advice, and I just wanted to give them advice. I wanted to give them suggestions. They were having such a difficult time. They actually asked me for my suggestion, for my opinions. So, but the thing is that we are just facilitators. We are not there to give advice. We are not there to give guidance. We are not there to do anything but listen. So the thing is that when we're growing up, it's like our parents give us advice, our parents guide us, our parents lead us. Many facilitators are parents and have children, and they're used to guiding and giving advice to their children. So there is a natural tendency to want to do it.
因此我们就会有一种自然的倾向，想要去这样做的建议，因为这也是我们在自己的文化当中所有的文化当中，我们日常生活的运作的方式。但我们呢，通过超过40年的这个亲身体验当中看到的是呢，在我们这样的小组当中，提建议这样的方式是不起作用的。
And we're not old wise sages there to be giving our wisdom. So we're really trying to see the world from the participant's point of view. And by listening and using our bag of tricks, we're like rolling out the red carpet for them to come out and trust and share. But it's not our job to push them out or pull them out. Like I said, we follow them. They don't follow us as facilitators. Okay, so if we're not all of these things, what are we as facilitators? Okay, next slide. We're traffic cops.
我们是交通警察。
Okay, So what's the main job of a traffic cop? Okay, the cop is at a four-way stop, right? Okay, so cars are coming in one direction, cars are coming in the other direction. So what would happen if he stood there and let all of the cars in one direction keep going and going and going and didn't let the cars in the other direction go? So one direction would be moving very smoothly. What would happen to the other direction? The traffic would get all backed up. So he'd probably be fired. Okay, so as facilitators, being the traffic cop, we need to keep track of time. Empathetic listening would be our first responsibility, and maybe equal is timekeeping. So when we finish this, I'm going to give some tips on timekeeping, some suggestions of how to do it better. So also, we have to trust, the facilitator has to trust that the traffic cop has to trust that everybody knows where they're going, right? I really love this analogy. I made it up myself. So every car has its own GPS, and everybody is going to a different place. Everybody's GPS is set for a different destination. So where does that come from? It could be that you know, we don't know why everyone is here on the planet. Everybody has their own path. So someone comes up to the traffic cop and they say, "Oh my God, my GPS is not working. Which direction should I go?" I mean, what would the traffic cop say? How the heck does he know where he or she is going? So what can he do? I mean, does he say, "Oh, well, I was at a traffic section like this with my wife in the car, and we were with our kids, and we came to a traffic section like this, and I made a left. So why don't you go left?" Sounds ridiculous, right? Of course it's ridiculous. And that's exactly what we're talking about in group with wanting to give advice or guidance. Everybody has their own GPS. So if he wanted to assist this guy who lost track of his GPS, if he was really a nice traffic cop, he might say, "Okay, pull over for a second. So why don't you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and try to remember when the last time was that you knew where you were going." So he would support the driver in trying to relocate in their essence, wherever, their own GPS again, so they know where they're going. Okay, what else can happen in a traffic section or whatever? There can be an accident. One car might bump into the other. One car might hit another. So he's a policeman. So what would he say to the people who had the accident between the two cars? Again, he would probably ask them, say, "Okay, why don't you pull over, get out of the flow of traffic?" And then the two people get out of their car and they start saying, "The accident was your fault." The other one says, "No, the accident was your fault. Who do you think you are?" So this is a policeman. Does he say, "Okay, well, you know, just fight it out. Doesn't matter to me"? Of course not. Besides being a traffic cop, he's a policeman. It's his job to keep the peace. So what the policeman might say to them is, "Okay, stop yelling at one another. That's not going to get us anywhere. So I want to hear your story first, and I want you to tell your story to me. It's not okay for you to yell at the other person, because that's not going to get us anywhere. It'll just heat up the argument more." And you know, he could say, "Okay, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to have whatever feelings you have. That's not a problem. But it's not okay for you to express strong feelings against another participant. It's just impossible." So as facilitators, that's our job. In other words, if that happens where two people start at each other, then the whole feeling of safety in the group is gone. So each person has the chance to share when it's their time to share, and they can tell their story and they can share their feelings, but they can't attack another member of the group. It's impossible. It's got to stop. Okay, so now some quick tips from the 1% bag of our tricks. Okay, timekeeping. So let's say we finish reading the principles, everything is done, we're ready for people to start to share. So we have, let's say, 100 minutes and 10 participants. Okay, so we say that, all right, so each participant then has 10 minutes. And then the facilitator might say, all right, so the maximum would be 10 minutes. Let's try to keep it to maybe 8 minutes or 9 minutes at the most, because we always seem to have a little problem of keeping on time. And the truth is that you can do the chemistry in your, the mathematics in your head and just say, okay, we've got 8 or 9 minutes each, because we have to have time for a joining or whatever. Okay, so people say, well, if someone gets into, really deep feelings, how can I cut them off? How can I stop them? But like Jerry said, you know what? It's like someone might come to group and leave more upset than when they came in. It's not our responsibility to wrap them up in a pretty package and send them home happy. It's our job to follow the process, to follow what's happening. So we always would say, wow, I know you're really in a very, very tender spot now when you're sharing this. In other words, acknowledge them, that that they're in a difficult place, or that they're right in the middle of something. But if we don't move on now, there's not going to be enough time for everybody to get their time to share. Could you just say one more sentence to try to complete for this evening? Yeah, so, all right, that's one thing. In other words, you have to keep time. As a traffic cop, you would lose your job if you didn't keep time. And that is probably, with empathetic listening, that's probably both number one. And you just have to trust that if someone is in a place like that they'll go home, maybe they can talk with their friend, or maybe after the group, other people in the group want to support the person. That's great. If that happens, that's great. But we have made an agreement to have X amount of time, and we need to make sure that in the time that we have made the agreement as a group, that we start and finish on time. Okay, so another little trick is that for many of the groups that I did, I would have everybody read a principle to close their sharing. And, if someone was looking for a solution to some situation, they might look at the principles and they might pick one that was about what they were sharing, and maybe how they could strengthen the choice muscle of seeing it a different way. Or they might pick their favorite one, or they might pick one that they've been working on, for a while. So I would have the sheet of paper that had all the principles on it. So after someone finished sharing, I would take the paper back and I would put it on the floor next to me. So when the next person was getting to their 8 minutes, whatever, I would pick up the piece of paper. So everybody knew that was the signal that it's coming close to the end of their share. So I might do it like, in other words, if I was the timekeeper, I'd be looking at my watch, I'd be timekeeping. That's the timekeeper's job. And when they got to like 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes, whatever, I would pick up the paper. And they would know, okay, if I want to say anything else, I better go quick, because Joe's gonna try to hand me that piece of paper and it's over. Okay, so the other thing that we had questions about was feedback sessions. I don't know where the concept of feedback sessions ever came from. It's nothing that I have ever used in all of the groups that I've ever facilitated, where people give feedback to people who have shared. I mean, if you wanted to create a fertile ground for people giving advice, you couldn't create a better situation. So if you don't want people to give advice, I think that's a very, very, very not a good place to go, because it'll be very, very fertile with advice. In other words, people will want to give advice. So yeah, so I would really look at that, and I personally don't think that that's a great thing to do, but obviously you guys can do whatever you want. Okay, so tips on advice giving. Okay, we said it's a very natural thing to want to give advice, because we've done it our whole lives, you know, as parents, as friends, as teachers, as whatever. We all have like an innate need to give advice. And we really want to do it because we feel like it'll help someone. And maybe if you are the teacher and you're giving advice to a student, it's very good. You're using your wisdom, you're the teacher, and it's okay to give advice. Okay, so number one, we try to stop ourselves. We stop ourselves from giving advice. So, and that's really important. I was in a group where there was a young woman who had a very serious illness, and she was living with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was so emotionally abusive to her. And after the group, the facilitators, myself and my facilitator, would go in and they think, oh my God, why does she stay with that guy? The poor thing, she's not feeling well. She has this serious illness. Why doesn't she just leave him? We were so wanting to give her advice to please take care of yourself and leave this guy.
我们特别想给他提这个建议，你要好好关爱自己啊，你要离开他。
So she became very ill, and this guy became the most wonderful caretaker you could ever imagine. So obviously, our picture of what was happening and our need to give advice, thank God we didn't give advice. If she ever left him, she would have been alone. Okay, so advice. Another thing about advice is that when a participant starts giving advice, you have to stop them. You can't let them give advice. It's in the guidelines that they can't do it. Everybody agrees to it. We have an agreement. They just cannot do it. So even if the person wants advice, even if they say, you know, please, traffic cop, tell me which direction to go in, it's not acceptable. They need to find their own best answers. Someone's advice or suggestion come from their point of view of the world, comes from their GPS. So when people give advice, they're not trying to hurt the other person. They really feel like they're trying to help the other person. They're not mean. They're not doing something that's that's mean. They really mean it in a very supportive way. So when someone starts giving advice, you have to say to them, okay, I know your intention is really good. I know that you're really concerned about this participant. So you don't say, oh, stop it. You know we don't do that. You acknowledge them. You say, I know your intention is good. I know you're really trying to be helpful.
因此，当我们制止小组成员给建议的时候呢，首先一定要说，我能够看到哈，你的本意是好的，你是带着一番好意的，你是非常关心这位小组成员的。 我们不能上来就说，哎，停下停下，你不能给建议，这样不行哈。我们首先要认可这位小组成员他的发心哈，说我能够看到你其实是想，为这个小组成员提供支持的。
And we all read the guidelines. We all agree to the guidelines, and the guidelines specifically say that there's no advice giving.
但是我们都事先都读了我们的团体交流准则了啊，并且我们也都达成共识了，我们要遵循这个准则啊。准则当中非常清晰的说明了我们不给建议。
And we have found in this type of group that has 40 or more years of experience that is not the way a group is productive. That really doesn't help people. We found that from 40 years of experience.
并且呢，基于我们这个支持小组超过40年的经验还有智慧来看，给建议这种方式在我们的小组环境当中其实不具备产出性，不会带来理想的结果。这个是我们经过40年的经验发现得出来的。
So I hope you understand why we don't do that here.
因此我也希望您能够理解为什么我们小组当中不给建议。
So that was a very long explanation. You don't have to give that long of an explanation unless they continue to give advice after you've asked them nicely not to.
刚才我做的这番说明非常的长哈，那其实我们在这个小组当中不用把这么长的一番说明都说一遍，除非是在你很有礼貌的邀请小组成员不要给建议之后，他还继续给，那我们就要把这一番话都说给他听。
Okay, so I just want to say something really, really important about giving advice. So if everybody has a piece of paper and a pen in front of them, I really want them to put that piece of paper and the pen in front of them, and I'm going to tell you what it is because I want you to write it down. Because they say, if someone says something and you hear it, it goes a little bit into your brain. But if you write it with your hand and you look at the words that you've written, it sinks in even deeper. So does everybody have their piece of paper and pen? Okay, so this is very, very important. And I hope it's the last time that we have to talk about advice giving. Okay, so this is the secret of advice giving. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Okay, that's it, guys. That's it. So do we have time for any Q&A? I don't know. What time is it? Oh, God, no, it's 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I hope I answered everybody's questions. And I appreciate your putting up with my theatrics. But you know that I can only be serious for so long, and then I need some humor. But also, I really hope that you got the message clearly. Okay, guys, so the old man is tired. He's ready for a glass of wine and some dinner. But it's been fantastic, doing this and being with you. Oh, God, to see your faces and hear your voices, it buoys my spirit. And I hope that we've answered your questions about facilitation, the questions that you put in. Okay, so I think that's it for tonight. I think we're signing off. But I really appreciate all of you being here, and I love you all, you know that. And and like I said when we began, I didn't know what you guys were really going through with a virus when it happened to you. But now it's happening to us, happening to me, and my heart goes out to the fact that you went through that, because you really can't experience something until you've experienced yourself.